Let's actually walk through the process to forming a US company. Here is the process for forming a US entity. Step 1, forming your company. To do this, whether you do it on your own or pay a provider, you're going to need to provide some personal information. That can be your company name, information on the members of the company, and then your personal address and information. This process typically takes about 1 week, depending on the state. And what happens here is paperwork is filed to the state of your choosing, and the state itself then registers your entity in that state. It takes time because it is a manual process. There are forms that need to be filled out, and the state has to review and approve your application to form the company. That is step 1. Once your company is formed, step 2, applying for what's called an employer identification number. And the process we are walking through is, again, not just forming your company, but going through this process to accessing the US financial ecosystem. And in order to do that, access a bank account and payments, you need what is called an EIN, or an employer identification number. You can think of this as your tax ID for your business. The same way a US citizen has a social security number, a US LLC or a US entity can get an EIN, which is your tax ID for the business. The way to get this form is you fill out what's called Form SS4, and that form is then sent to the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. If you are a non-US resident, the form must be faxed. And if you are a US resident, you can apply online. Now, in terms of timelines for this stage, COVID threw a massive wrench in things. If you're a US resident, again, typically you can get your EIN online immediately or in a few days if the site is down or if you're working outside of the operating hours. If you're a non-US resident, in the past it used to take 4 business days. Due to COVID, it could take up to 90 business days. However, as of now, the IRS is processing EINs faster, and we're hoping that the EIN processing times return to that 4 business day period we had seen in the past. Once you do successfully get your EIN, next up is applying for a US bank account. When you apply for the US bank account, you're going to need to provide your LLC Formation docs, whoever the authorized member of the LLC, who will be the responsible holder of the bank account, must apply. You'll need your EIN number, and you'll also need a US phone number and a US bank account. Now, the timeline for this stage truly depends on the bank itself, but it can take 1 to 2 weeks on average. Step 4, once you have your US bank account, next up, set up US payments. And this is pretty fast. You can work with something like Stripe, set it up online, connect your bank account, enter in your EIN, and just like that, you have access to US payments, US banking, a US entity with limited liability protection, and you can sell globally in the US dollar.